Our next segment will feature the candidates for Knox County Sheriff, and the candidates are Deputy Wayne Noggle, Captain William Shaffer, and Police Chief Dan Weckesser. Our first question goes to all candidates. You all mentioned drugs and mental health as huge issues facing the county. What programs will you put in place to address the drug addiction problem in Knox County, and how specifically will you pay for those programs? Deputy Noggle, we'll start with you.
So drugs in our community is a big issue, and with drugs comes the mental health issues. The programs that are in place now, they've been helping people, but I think we need to dig deeper. When it comes to drugs, it is my opinion, like anything else, if you don't realize you have a problem, you don't want to fix your problem. So we got to work more at putting funds and stuff towards finding them avenues to help people understand they have an issue with drugs, or even with anger when it comes to domestic violence or anything. So we need to put our money more towards that, and then on the backside we can start putting some money towards the efforts to keep them there. And finding them funds is going to be, to me, a thing of shifting funds that's already there for mental health and drugs to get into some of these new programs and be innovative and work with them new programs and work with our partners to find these new programs, because some of the things we're doing now, I believe, just aren't working 100%. They're helping Band-Aid the problem, but they're not working 100%.
Captain Shaffer?
Well, what I've started already at the Sheriff's Office is we've started using community resources and other leaders, such as the Freedom Center. We've started an MAT program at the jail, which is a medically assisted treatment for drug addiction. What that does is that allows those folks to go through a physical, they go through a psych evaluation, they go through the process, then they are then able to receive an injection which cuts off those receptors. It cuts the craving. So when the folks leave the jail, they can go to treatment. They can go to their job interviews. They can go back home without having to worry about that type of stuff. What I want to do is expand that. Expand it into the community, get more resources involved, because we have a lot of mental health agencies in the area that want to help. And what they need is a funnel to be able to do that. And I'd like to do that.
Chief Weckesser?
So our drug problem is a huge problem, and I believe that we need a relentless approach to removing the drugs on the street. We need to go after the dealers. Law enforcement needs to have a administrator in charge that'll back the officers for whatever they're going to do, and we need to go get the main dealers off the street. We have a lot of great officers in our county and deputies, and we need to just be cut loose so that we can go do our job and get these individuals off the street and locked up where they belong, so they quit dispersing this stuff to our citizens. Mental health issues is a big problem. I believe that we need to look for as much funding as possible to help with that problem. We need to find people that will sponsor individuals that have drug issues and try to open up so that communication, so that if they feel like they're getting ready to step off and start dipping back into the drug issues, they have somebody they can call, a sponsor, to talk to. Also, another thing too is I believe that we need to start the mental health problem. We need to start taking as many of these individuals to Mansfield, to the psych ward up there, instead of bringing them into our hospital. And our hospital does a great job, but I've been out there so many times, and then when we bring someone in that's got mental health issues, it just makes their job even harder. So I believe we need to take more of these individuals to the psych ward in Mansfield for help.
The second question is for Deputy Noggle. You said you would start a citizens patrol group where citizens are locally trained and vetted. How will they be vetted, How will you ensure it won't turn into a militia with citizens taking the law into their own hands? And will the county face any liability issues with such a group?
So the group would end up being, the citizens group would end up being more of a civic-style group that would be attached to the sheriff's office to help us reach out to our townships that they live in, to go to meetings, help us with events when they can set at tables for us and give and help give information out. The vetting process would be similar to getting hired. I mean, we're gonna have to do a background check because you can't just let anybody into them kind of groups when it's sensitive stuff is like law enforcement. So the vetting process, you would have to put an application in, and then you would be ran through a background check through the state and the county. And then we would start building on that, and then we would use our partners with COTC, who Licking County started this program several years back, and they use COTC as their trainer for it. So it is actually a trained program that COTC now has taken over, and we can bring it here to train our citizens to help us, because law enforcement needs the community involvement to be successful.
Captain Shaffer, one of your campaign points is creating a hotspot map for crime. How would you implement this, and are you concerned about creating a bias when going into a specific neighborhood or area?
Well, the crime mapping would be open to the public. There are several companies that do this now, Clearview, Crime Door, another one that's called eSiri. I apologize if your phone starts talking to you. But what that does is all the calls that the sheriff's office takes then gets translated into that map. That map you can see and we can see where we have a hotbed of activity. So if we have limited resources like we do, we have to be able to use those resources in a more productive manner. If I have an area in the county that has just an abundance of crime going on, I know I can saturate that area a little bit better with more folks that we have on shift. And what it also does is it empowers everybody that looks onto the site. You can, if you're at the tipping point, like maybe, do I want a home security system? Maybe you do. And now you have some numbers to back that up so you can feel a little more comfortable. Maybe you need to talk to your neighbors a little bit more. Maybe you need to start a neighborhood watch. With this system, you will be able to have that information to make a more educated decision. It's not going to be a biased, because the numbers don't lie. We just didn't report to a biased area. If there's a crime and we report it and we did something there to help, that's going to be on the map. It's not regulated to demographics or anything of the such. So that's why I think that is important for us.
Chief Weckesser, as police chief, you declined to put the Danville Police Department on the county CAD system. And just for the audience, the CAD system, it's computer-aided dispatch, and it just kind of essentially tracks all of the information that comes in with 911 calls, and deputies enter information in it, and the dog wardens are also can access the system and write notes and so forth. Chief, additionally, you encourage citizens to call you on your personal cell phone. As sheriff, would you encourage or discourage those actions? Are you concerned about the safety of other first responders due to lack of information? And where is the accountability if you bypass the CAD system?
All right. First of all, this is something that's been going on for a long time. When the CAD system and the countywide reporting system first came out, the village of Danville looked at it, and we just did not have the funding to join this. At that time, we could have got on the system. The only thing it would have cost us is a yearly administrative fee plus training of the officers. The mayor and our council, due to our small budget, decided not to do it. And so at that time, the mayor, he did not want to go into that. So when we got a new mayor, he's prior law enforcement, and somebody was pressuring him for us to get into this system. So he told me to look into it, find out how much it cost, because we need to go on this countywide reporting system. It is a great system, and I wish we could be on it. But we have to be fiscally responsible because we have very little money in Danville. So when I looked into it, it was $27,000 to start it, plus an annual fee, plus training our officers. So the system we use right now, it was designed for law enforcement by the state of Ohio. It's called OLEG. It costs the county and the department no money other than our regular taxes because it's run by the state. And it is a great system. It works very well. We do our payroll on it, our reporting, and also crash. We have a layout plan of all the schools on this system. So that's the reason why we didn't go on it. The little bit of money we did have, I decided to use it for tasers and body cameras instead of this system. I would like to have this system, but it's just doesn't fit in our budget.
And Grant will ask the next question.
All right, this is for all candidates. With the influx of border crossings in the United States, what protocols would you put in place to protect local citizens? And we'll start with Captain Shaffer.
Well, this has certainly been a hotbed of discussion here lately. If we've seen Sheriff Jones out of Butler County in his speech, we do, the sheriff's office and local law enforcement, we get intel daily, weekly on incoming immigration, what kind of red flags we should be looking for, what kind of red flags there are. Right now, what we've run into is at a higher level than ours, because if I arrest them and we put them in jail, I call ICE and ICE says just cut them loose. I don't have much of a choice. I don't have a legal reason to hold them. So the answer to the southern border is much bigger than the local level. We can arrest them, but eventually we have to let them go. I don't like it. I wish we could do something else. I wish I had a bus that would go straight back down south, but I don't. The harsh reality is when we call ICE, we call immigration, if you don't know what that is, they tell us, let them go because we can't help you. We can't do anything about it. This is part of the problem that we're dealing with, and we're not alone. Everybody's dealing with this nationwide. They have failed us on a monumental level when it comes to immigration, and we don't really have much of a leg to stand on. So we can, yes, arrest them, and we can even try to deport them only if they have a warrant, but that's typically not the case. So what we have found is we have some Chinese nationalists that we've had a couple cases with here recently, and we have been successful. We've charged them and filed, and they have been returned to their countries that we know of. But as of right now, the problems is much larger than what we can handle.
And then Chief.
Yes, definitely a problem. We're going to have to wait till the federal government and or state government comes up with some laws that we can go by so that we can start arresting these individuals and if they're in our country illegally. It's hard on all of us law enforcement officers to let these individuals go. The problems here, we deal with it on a regular basis. We catch them driving without a driver's license, no insurance, you name it. And at our agency, they do not drive away. If they don't have a driver's license and they don't have no insurance, that vehicle is impounded, and they'll be cited for it. But that's about the most we can do at this point because we cannot jail them. We could, but they can't hold them, and it just costs a lot of money. So it is a huge problem that we're all going to have to deal with in the future.
This is a lot bigger issue than Knox County, but as elected as a sheriff, my job is to protect the citizens of Knox County. Part of me says, if ICE don't want to do nothing with them, I'm going to load them up in my transport van. I'm going to drive them down to Columbus and say, hey, I got these guys for you, and I'm going to drop them off in your federal building, and then you guys can release them. That way, the money we spend transporting is going to be a lot cheaper than housing them in our jail. And when ICE says I don't want them, release them, I'll take them down there and walk them in their building, and we'll release them in their building to them. They can deal with them. It's the federal government and our politicians, some bad politicians has created this problem. And in Knox County, as elected to being a sheriff, you are a constitutional person, and we got to stop it at our border. I kind of feel like the Texas governor. Our borders are sacred, and we got to stop that stuff before it gets here.
All right, this question is for all the candidates as well. Recruiting and retaining staff is challenging in the best of times, and it seems to be getting worse. What will you do to enhance recruitment and then ensure that officers stay on? And we'll start with Chief Weckesser.
Probably number one thing we need to do is have administration that'll back our officers and our deputies, and I'm definitely that man. So we talked about, recruiting citizens, what have you, and that's program COTC has is a great idea. But I've talked about, as far as the Sheriff's Department, commissioned and non-commissioned officers that are under the colors of the Sheriff's Department. So I've had some individuals that are in law enforcement that don't live in our county ask me how I feel about dual commissions, and I'm good with that. So bring those individuals on, and regular citizens that would like to train with us. And so I've talked about forming a recruitment group amongst the commissioned or non-commissioned officers, and where they'll go out and recruit homegrown individuals that have ideas of being in law enforcement. Also, we have the luxury of having a lot of good school resource officers in Knox County. I'd like to use them guys, leverage to, if a young man or woman says, hey, I think I might want to be in law enforcement, encourage them and maybe help bring them along into the law enforcement profession.
And then the Deputy Noggle.
First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with our youth. We have a lot of good youth in this county. We need to get back to our Explorer Cadet program that was abandoned years ago. I think if we use our school resource officers to help guide a program for even after school, like ski club or chess club, and we get our kids involved again and make them want to be part of our community and have ownership in our community, it's going to bring young men and women up who want to be in law enforcement. Secondly, we need to get out. There is job fairs out there from the military that happen. We can go and we can go down and we can recruit from these places. These young men and women coming out of our armed forces are looking for jobs. They're looking for good jobs. They're already partially skilled in what we do. I just believe that's the route we need to take for recruiting. When it comes to retention, we need to look at the hard truths that our county is starting to get behind in what we pay our officers. The truth behind it is we're going to have to pay more if we want to retain the good officers we have. People every day across our county, not just in law enforcement, are looking for other jobs, especially ones with less stress than law enforcement has. So we need to do a better job at retaining the good law enforcement officers we have here now.
And Captain Shaffer.
Well, you address the culture. We have a good culture, but it needs to be better. It wasn't that long ago that law enforcement were all heroes. The last 5 years, we have just taken a beating through the media. So we address the culture. We attack it on a multi-level front, social media. You expand that transparency so everybody gets to talking about us. If we're on everybody's lips in a good manner, it will sell itself. Start an academy. Don't send these folks away to an academy. You teach them here, you keep them. It's like they were talking about, homegrown. If you don't have to go to Newark, if you don't have to go to Richland County to have an education, why do that? Let's do it here. We get them in, we start them young, and we keep them. And then we go from there. A Citizens Academy. I love the idea of having a Citizens Academy to bring people in, to expand our knowledge base to what people not only need, but what we do as law enforcement. If you have a better understanding of what we do and understand what we do, you become more comfortable with us. It enhances that culture that we're looking for to make us prominent in the community again. You shouldn't look at us and think, oh God, here comes the popo, right? You should be thankful we're coming, because we fight the bad guys. And we don't want just anybody. We want somebody that's different. We're not selling McDonald's here. We want somebody that thinks differently, acts differently, and does the right thing all the time. And we do that with a culture. Thank you.
This question is for Chief Weckesser. You said you have a plan to support the sheriff's office other than taxing citizens more. What is that plan?
So I would like to start housing federal prisoners. That's one plan. The other thing is, just try to be more fiscally responsible. I think they do a great job, and we're just going to have to do what we can to save money everywhere, because I know everybody in this room is probably just like I am. My property taxes took a huge hike, so we're going to have to look for ways to save money in every government entity, Sheriff's Department being one of them. And so if we can house federal prisoners, that will help bring some money in. I have a few other ideas that I'm not ready to release. I've been 10 years since I knew that I was going to run for sheriff or start a plan, so I have a huge list of different ideas, different plans that I plan on implementing if it works out. And we definitely have to come up with something different than taxing tax-paying citizens more and more, because sooner or later we're going to break, and we have to find ways to save us money. And I agree with my colleagues here as far as the law enforcement professionals in our county. We're losing them left and right to other counties that are paying more money, or even other professions where they don't have the stress. So, yeah, we have to do everything we can to try to save money.
This question is for Captain Shaffer. You mentioned partnerships with local businesses and community organizations to secure additional funding. What does that look like, and can you provide an example?
Well, how it looks is we've already started. Like I mentioned before, we've already partnered with the Freedom Center with the MAT program. That's just an example. The drugs that the MAT have and require are very expensive, and the county doesn't pay for that. That's through the Freedom Center. So the idea is to partner with our local leaders for more of that. What do other companies offer the people that are incarcerated or people that we come in contact with, such as housing? How much housing do we have? Maybe they're homeless, maybe they need a hand up, not a handout. How do we get that going? So this is something that we've already started, and you're going to try to spread the wealth, because as much as we are a pillar, we're only a spoke in the wheel. It takes everybody to make the community great. All we can do is try to navigate how we go. With the other part of that is trying to get a threat assessment team together, and that is to involve all law enforcement, the hospitals, the guidance counselors at the schools. What do we see out there as a group that potentially is coming our way. Maybe there's a new drug, maybe there's a handful of people that need our attention before they make the wrong choice. So it's that type of community ties that I'm trying to build to make the community safer.
This question is for Deputy Noggle. Are there any areas in the sheriff's office or jail budget that you would focus on either cutting expenses or appropriating more money?
There is places we can cut to reappropriate and move money. But what we need to do is lay the groundwork right now to make sure that our men and women that's working there are taken care of first, because then that's how we're going to take care of the community. We might have to shift some money around. We might have to look at other options into fleet maintenance. We might have to look at things that's going to be cost saving so we can use money for something else. But at the end of the day, I can't sit here and say that Sheriff Shaffer has done a bad job with the budget, because he hasn't. I do think my ideals, we could shift some of that money and maybe do a few things that's cost effective. I've worked on that in the past with things when I was full-time employed there. You know, what them would have to be a hard look at every line item of what the budget is, and sit down and go over that, and not only go over it with myself, but if elected as your sheriff, to sit down with Sheriff Shaffer and go over what he's been doing to try to keep some of the things moving forward that are good that he's put in place. At the end of the day, we do have to be good stewards of the public's money, but we also have to protect the public, and we have to protect our borders here in Knox County. And that's going to take some money to do it, some shifting of money, maybe some shifting of people and personnel into other places. But it can be achieved.
And we're going to switch back to Cheryl for our final question.
Actually, we're running a little bit ahead of time, so I'm going to sneak in an extra question here. School resource officers and the DARE program, given trying to reach the students, at the youngest age possible, can you give us an idea of where funding for the DARE program and/or a school resource officer might fit in your budget priorities? And I know the schools, fund some of the school resource officers, but can you give us a sense of where that fits? So, yeah, Deputy Noggle will start.
So funding, I think we need to get back into some DARE. 2009 took it out of our schools. I think if you look at statistics and numbers, there was a change in our numbers of crime and drug use in young people. I do believe it's a good program. I think we can find the funds, because our resource officers right now are being paid for through joint funds between the schools and the county. But I think there could be funds. One thing our government did get right is they did produce funds for security in our schools. So if we can mold some of that money back around to make our schools secure, and also put that money back into doing some DARE in our young people, so once they get through into that middle school age and stuff, they at least have some better perspective about the effects and stuff that this is going to have on society as they get older.
Chief Weckesser?
So I'm a big advocate of school resource officers. I've been saying for years the two best jobs in law enforcement is school resource officer and a K-9 officer. I might be a bit biased about that, but you have an opportunity to mold these young people's lives, and we've had some great resource officers in Danville, and we started off in 2017. The community threw in $30,000 to get our resource officer program started, and it's went from there. In 2018, we acquired grants from the new and improved DARE program. That it's structured a lot different, and there's education, I believe, from first grade to 12th grade instead of 5th grade only. We've had a lot of success with the DARE program. We've even had success with parents that we had had trouble with on the street, and because of the resource officer in the school being good to their children and teaching them life experiences and telephone, and, learn their telephone number, their address, and memorize it at a young age. So some of them individuals that we always, when we encountered them on the street, they changed their attitude towards law enforcement. And so our current resource officer does a great job, Rich Miller, and our school, we're really fortunate. Our school pays for our resource officer, and the Danville PD, he's just commissioned through our office, and this has worked well.
Well, we already have a good working model with East Knox and Centerburg, and the schools pay part of that funding as well as we do. And it's a shared program. If we can get other schools to buy in, then we can certainly expand that. I think the SRO program, even the DARE program, is a fantastic opportunity to expose young folks to law enforcement, to get them comfortable with us, to be able to come to us in times of danger, not scared. Again, that you shouldn't be scared when we come. And this is how we do that. It's programs through there. So working with the education system, working with I know the city of Mount Vernon has a very robust SRO program, and it works fantastic. So there are successful working models already in the county. It's getting the other schools on board and trying to get them, to help out, because we can only do so much as a county.
And now our last question before final comments. What is your #1 priority to change if you're elected? And Captain Shaffer, we'll start with you.
Geez, no pressure. Unfortunately, I don't know that I will have a single goal to start with. Like any problem that you deal with at your house or work, our problems are like an onion. You got to peel them back. So you attack it on a multi-front surface. You attack the mental health, you attack the drug addiction, you attack the culture. You get more people involved in the office to help you do that. Spread out your resources more effectively. Institute the crime mapping, like I mentioned before. Making the resources available to the areas that need it. There's no problem that can say outweighs another one, because all the problems that we face are interconnected. If we can stop one, it's going to help the others, and hopefully it turns into a domino effect. But the biggest thing is getting our folks out there with the proper equipment in the right spots to be able to keep our community safe so our kids can go to school with their SROs and feel comfortable about being here. And with the expected growth that we are, expecting, we need security, because with growth comes bad guys. There's no getting around it. Crime comes with growth. And if we don't have mechanisms in place to deal with that growth, then we're going to struggle.
Chief Weckesser?
Yeah, there's a broad range of things that needs to be addressed, but probably one of my priorities that I believe needs to be taken care of is making sure that the citizens and our deputies and our officers are protected. As of right now, we do not have an armored vehicle. We do not have a lot of the equipment we need. We have to rely on outside agencies to come in, and a lot of times that may be hours before that happens. One of the biggest things I believe that we need to do is find the funding. I have some donors that are ready to donate money towards an armored vehicle. All I have to do is ask. We need to have an armored vehicle, not only to protect all the citizens, but all the deputies, all the officers, which we're all citizens as well, so we all fall under that umbrella. But not so long ago, we had some, I'm going to call them homegrown terrorists that plagued this county for 20 years that luckily, there was, that come to a resolve. And if we would have had the equipment of our own, we probably would have resolved that problem a lot sooner. We have a lot of great deputies and officers in this county that I know was upset, and they wish they could have took care of that problem a lot sooner, because these individuals victimized a lot of citizens in our county, and that's very unfortunate in this day and age.
Deputy Noggle?
From day one, the first thing I'll address at the sheriff's office is that we'll start forming a group of people from the sheriff's office, the surrounding police departments, the dispatch center, our fire departments, and citizens out of the county to have at-large people on this committee to research where we can change our patrol areas. If anybody's familiar, we have patrol areas that deputies are assigned to. I've been with the sheriff's office for 33 years, and them patrol areas haven't changed since I started there. Has our populace not changed in Knox County? Do we not need to redraw them lines so our coverages are better? That would be one of the first things I would start out the gate doing, and getting that going so we can continue with that group into a 5-year plan of things that's coming from Licking County. We need to have a 5 and a 10-year plan put in place so we kind of know where we're going to be moving as things start happening.
Thank you. Each candidate now has 1 minute for final comments, and Chief Weckesser, we'll start with you.
So I thank everyone that made this event possible tonight. I encourage everyone to do the research of the candidates that are here tonight, make their own decision for who you vote for. I have a successful police department, have ran a successful police department, and I have a proven track record of serving the citizens. I respectfully ask for your vote on March 19th, 2024. Thank you.
Deputy Noggle?
First and foremost, I appreciate everybody that came out here to listen to us. All three of us, I feel, are very qualified for this position. I want to thank Knox Pages for putting this on. At the end of the day, it's about how you feel about the security in your county. The sheriff's job is about security. We have to make sure we're secure, and that includes from our borders to clear within. It's going to take work from everybody in this room, your neighbors, because it is a joint effort. At the end of the day, like I said, it's about the security. We have to do things. We have to retain our people. It just simply is not going to work without citizen involvement. This day and age, that's what it's about, and that's what we need to head towards.
Capt. Shaffer?
Again, I want to thank everybody for coming. And I just want everybody to know that if elected, I plan on utilizing my 15 years of supervisory experience at the sheriff's office to benefit not only us, but everyone in the community. I want to preserve the essence and the actual U.S. Constitution, and especially the Second Amendment. I'm a firm believer in defending your own home and people not coming and taking our guns. That's not going to happen. But part of that, and I mentioned it before, is the culture, and it's some of that with the community is transparency. You'll be able to see and hear what we're doing and where we're going and how we're doing it. The only people we're not going to tell are the bad guys. That way we can catch them. But I do thank everyone for coming, and I would appreciate your vote on March.